8-year-old Jessica Richards stepped off the school bus at her regular stop on Maple Street, her purple backpack bouncing as she walked. 12 years later, her sister Ashley is driving to work when she hears a voice on a true crime podcast that stops her cold. The caller describing their escape from captivity sounds exactly like the little sister she lost all those years ago. Ashley Richards pulls into the parking lot of Riverside Elementary, where she works as a guidance counselor, her hands trembling as she grips the steering wheel. The morning routine feels impossibly normal after what she just heard. Children stream past her car windows, their laughter echoing off the brick buildings. At 28, Ashley has spent nearly half her life wondering what happened to Jessica. The podcast is still playing through her car speakers, the caller's voice describing years of captivity in a converted basement. Every inflection, every pause sounds hauntingly familiar. She reaches for her phone, rewinding the segment. The caller identified herself only as Survivor Number 3, but spoke about being taken from a bus stop in Cedar Falls at age 8. Cedar Falls is 40 minutes from Ashley's hometown of Millbrook. The timeline matches perfectly. The voice, older now but carrying those same speech patterns Jessica had developed after their father left, sends chills down Ashley's spine. The Tuesday afternoon Jessica disappeared had started like any other day. October 15th, 2011. Jessica had been excited about show and tell, carrying a small ceramic owl their grandmother had given her. Ashley, then 16 and dealing with her own teenage problems, had barely paid attention as Jessica climbed onto bus 47 that morning. Their mother, Linda, was working double shifts at the diner, trying to keep up with rent after their father abandoned them 6 months earlier. Jessica never made it home. The bus driver, Mr. Peterson, reported dropping her off at the usual stop on Maple Street at 3:47 p.m. Security cameras from the nearby gas station confirmed Jessica getting off the bus and walking toward their apartment complex. Somewhere in that 3-block walk, she simply vanished. No witnesses, no signs of struggle, no trace of her purple backpack or the ceramic owl. The investigation consumed the first year. Detective Robinson had been thorough, but ultimately frustrated by the lack of evidence. Jessica's case went cold after 18 months, joining the files of too many missing children whose disappearances couldn't be solved. The family received periodic updates, but no breakthroughs. Ashley watched her mother deteriorate, guilt and grief consuming her until she could barely function. 12 years passed. Ashley focused on her education, driven by a desire to help other children. She became a guidance counselor, moved back to Millbrook, and tried to build something positive from the wreckage of her family. But Jessica's absence remained a constant ache, an unhealed wound that colored every interaction with the children in her care. This morning, Ashley had been listening to Voices of Survival, a podcast featuring anonymous interviews with trafficking survivors. She'd started listening 6 months ago, hoping to better understand trauma responses in the children she counseled. The episode, titled Escape After 12 Years, featured a young woman describing her captivity and eventual escape from a trafficking ring. "I was 8 when he took me from the bus stop," the caller had said. "I remember dropping my backpack when he grabbed me. There was this little ceramic owl inside that my grandmother had given me. I kept thinking about that owl during the worst times, imagining it was watching over me." Ashley's coffee cup had slipped from her hands, shattering on her kitchen floor. Now, sitting in her car outside the school, Ashley dials the podcast's tip line with shaking fingers. The voicemail message instructs callers to leave detailed information about any leads related to the survivor interviews. Ashley takes a deep breath and begins speaking. "My name is Ashley Richards. I think the caller from today's episode might be my sister Jessica. She disappeared from a bus stop in Millbrook 12 years ago when she was 8. She had a ceramic owl in her backpack that day, exactly like the caller described. Please, I need to know if there's any way to verify this." The school day passes in a blur. Ashley goes through the motions of counseling sessions and administrative meetings, but her mind remains fixed on that voice. During lunch, she calls Detective Robinson, who retired 5 years ago, but still takes her calls about Jessica's case. "Ashley, I understand your hope," Robinson says gently, "but we've had false leads before. Voices can be deceiving, especially after so many years." "This isn't a false lead," Ashley insists. "I know my sister's voice, and the owl detail hasn't been released publicly. Only family and investigators knew about that." Robinson pauses. "You're right about the owl. That was kept confidential. Let me make some calls, see if I can reach out to the podcast producers." That evening, Ashley sits in Jessica's old bedroom, which their mother had preserved exactly as Jessica left it. Pink walls, stuffed animals arranged on the bed, homework still on the desk. Their mother had passed away 3 years ago, her heart finally giving out under the weight of unresolved grief. Ashley had inherited the house and couldn't bring herself to change Jessica's room. Her phone rings. The caller ID shows an unfamiliar number. Is this Ashley Richards? The voice is professional but kind. "This is Detective Amanda Cross from the FBI's Human Trafficking Task Force. I understand you believe you recognized one of our podcast callers." Ashley's heart pounds. "Yes, I think it was my sister Jessica." "Ms. Richards, I need to ask you some specific questions. Details about your sister that weren't made public. Can you describe any distinctive speech patterns or mannerisms Jessica had?" Ashley closes her eyes, remembering. She had a slight lisp with her S sounds that she was working on with a speech therapist, and she always said supposedly instead of supposedly. It was adorable. Oh, and she had this habit of humming the same song when she was nervous, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." There's a long pause on the other end. "Ms. Richards, the survivor we interviewed yesterday, has been in our protection program for the past 8 months. She escaped from a trafficking operation we've been investigating. She does have those speech patterns you described." Ashley's legs give out, and she sinks onto Jessica's bed. Is it really her? "We'll need to do DNA verification, but based on the details you've provided and what she's told us about her background, there's a strong possibility." "Ms. Richards, I need to prepare you. If this is your sister, she's been through severe trauma. The recovery process will be complex." The next morning, Detective Cross arrives in Millbrook with a small FBI team. They meet at the police station, where Robinson has pulled Jessica's original case file. Cross explains that the trafficking ring operated for over 15 years, targeting children from broken homes or those in foster care. Children whose disappearances might receive less attention from authorities. "The man who took your sister called himself Robert Hayes," Cross explains. "Real name, William Palmer. He worked as a substitute bus driver across 3 school districts, rotating routes to avoid detection. He would study the children, identify those from unstable home situations, and develop opportunities to isolate them." Ashley feels sick. Jessica fit that profile. Our father had just left. Our mother was working constantly. "Palmer is extremely manipulative," Cross continues. "He convinced his victims that their families had given up looking for them, that no one wanted them back. Many of the children he held believed they were unwanted. The DNA test takes 3 days. During that time, Ashley barely sleeps, alternating between hope and terror. If it's really Jessica, how damaged will she be? Will she remember their family? Will she want to reconnect? On Friday afternoon, Cross calls with the results. "It's a match, Ashley. The woman we've been working with is your sister, Jessica." Ashley breaks down completely, 12 years of suppressed grief and desperate hope flooding out in violent sobs. When she finally composes herself, Cross continues with the difficult details. "Jessica has been incredibly brave. Her testimony helped us locate and rescue 4 other victims who were still being held. She escaped during a transport between facilities 8 months ago. A trucker found her walking along Highway 35 in the middle of the night and brought her to a hospital. "Can I see her?" Ashley asks. She knows about you reaching out. She's scared, but she wants to meet. The trauma counselors think a gradual reintroduction might be beneficial for both of you. The reunion is arranged for the following week at a secure facility in Dallas. Ashley drives the 3 hours with Detective Robinson, who insisted on coming for support. The building looks like a corporate office complex, deliberately nondescript. Jessica is waiting in a comfortable conference room with her therapist, Dr. Anderson. Ashley stops in the doorway, her breath catching. Jessica is small for 20, her dark hair shorter than Ashley remembers, her eyes carrying a wariness that breaks Ashley's heart. But it's unmistakably her little sister. "Hi, Ashley," Jessica says quietly. Her voice carries the same slight lisp, though it's less pronounced now. Ashley crosses the room slowly, not wanting to overwhelm her. "Hi, Jess. I've missed you so much." They sit across from each other at first, talking carefully about safe topics. Jessica asks about their mother, and Ashley has to explain that Linda passed away 3 years ago. Jessica's face crumples with grief and guilt. "She never stopped looking for you," Ashley says gently. "She never gave up hope." As the hours pass, Jessica begins sharing pieces of her story. Palmer had convinced her that her family didn't want her anymore, that her disappearance was a relief to her struggling mother. He moved her frequently between different locations, always keeping her isolated from the other children he held. "I tried to escape so many times," Jessica says, "but he always found me. He said he had connections everywhere, that even the police worked for him. I started believing I'd never get free." Ashley learns that Jessica had been planning her final escape for months, memorizing guard schedules and studying the layout of the facility. When the opportunity came during a transport, she took it despite not knowing where she was or where to go. "I was going to call you," Jessica says, tears in her eyes. "But I was so scared. I didn't know if you'd want me back. I thought maybe you'd moved on, found a better life without the sister who caused so much pain." "Never," Ashley says firmly. "There hasn't been a single day I haven't thought about you, haven't hoped you'd come home." Dr. Anderson explains that Jessica's recovery will be a long process. She suffers from complex PTSD, trust issues, and dissociative episodes. But she's also shown remarkable resilience and strength. Her testimony helped the FBI dismantle Palmer's entire operation. "William Palmer is facing life in prison without parole," Detective Cross explains during a meeting the next day. "Your sister's courage in coming forward and testifying ensured that he'll never hurt another child." Jessica has also helped authorities locate and identify other victims. Some had been held for even longer than she had. Others, tragically, didn't survive their captivity. Jessica carries guilt about being unable to save them all, but her therapist is helping her process these feelings. The media attention around Palmer's arrest and the rescue of the trafficking victims is intense but carefully managed. Jessica's identity is protected, and she's given the choice about how much of her story to share publicly. She decides to continue doing anonymous interviews for the podcast, hoping her voice might help other survivors find the courage to come forward. Ashley takes a leave of absence from her job to focus on supporting Jessica's reintegration. They start with short visits, building trust slowly. Jessica is amazed by how Ashley has turned their childhood trauma into a career helping other children. She's proud that her big sister became someone who protects kids. "You always took care of me," Jessica says during one of their sessions. "Even when we were little and everything was falling apart with Mom and Dad, you made sure I felt safe." The process isn't linear. Jessica has bad days when the trauma overwhelms her, when she retreats into herself and can barely speak. But she also has good days when glimpses of the bright, curious 8-year-old she once was shine through. She still hums "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" when she's nervous, though now she's conscious of the habit. 6 months after their reunion, Jessica moves into a small apartment near Ashley's house. She's not ready to live with family yet, but she wants to be close. She started taking college courses online, studying psychology with the goal of eventually helping other trauma survivors. "I want to do what you do," she tells Ashley. "Help kids who are going through what we went through." The ceramic owl, remarkably, was recovered from Palmer's storage unit along with belongings from other victims. The FBI returns it to Jessica during one of their final interviews. She holds it carefully, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma would have been so proud of you," Ashley says, sitting beside her. "You survived, Jess. You found your way back to us." Jessica nods, clutching the small owl. "I used to dream about this moment. When things got really bad, I'd close my eyes and imagine you coming to find me. I'd imagine coming home." The case officially closes 18 months later when Palmer is sentenced to life in prison. By then, Jessica has testified in multiple related cases, helping to ensure that everyone involved in the trafficking ring faces justice. Her strength and determination to see it through amazes everyone who works with her. Ashley keeps Jessica's childhood bedroom preserved, but now it serves a different purpose. Jessica visits sometimes, touching the stuffed animals and looking at her old homework. It's a bridge between who she was and who she's becoming. "I can't get those 12 years back," Jessica says during one of these visits, "but I can make sure they meant something. Every kid we help, every predator we stop, it makes what I went through have purpose." The podcast Voices of Survival wins several awards for its coverage of trafficking cases. Jessica becomes a regular contributor, her interviews helping other survivors find their voices. The ceramic owl sits on her desk as she records, a reminder of the 8-year-old girl who was strong enough to hold on to hope even in the darkest places. Ashley returns to her work as a guidance counselor with new perspective and deeper empathy. She speaks at conferences about recognizing signs of trauma in children and the importance of never giving up on missing child cases. She carries photos of Jessica, both as the 8-year-old who was taken and as the strong young woman she's become. On the 12th anniversary of Jessica's disappearance, they visit their mother's grave together. Jessica places the ceramic owl on the headstone for a few minutes, then picks it up again. "She's with us," Jessica says quietly. "I can feel her pride." Ashley nods, wrapping her arm around her sister's shoulders. The journey isn't over, may never truly be over, but they're walking it together now. The little girl who vanished from a bus stop 12 years ago has found her way home, and in doing so, she's helped ensure that other children will too. The voice on the podcast that stopped Ashley's world that October morning wasn't just a stranger sharing their story. It was Jessica, still fighting, still surviving, still holding on to hope. Sometimes the most extraordinary thing about a person isn't how they fall, but how they choose to rise. Jessica Richards chose to rise, and in doing so, she brought light to the darkest corners where other children were still waiting to be found.